Welcome to ProgrammingKT. Today in this tutorial, I am trying to explaining about wrapper classes in Java. So these are the topics I am trying to explaining about wrapper classes. Like what are the wrapper classes? Why wrapper classes are introduced? What is the problem with primitives and what is autoboxing and auto unboxing? So let me start with first point. So what are wrapper classes? Wrapper classes are introduced in JDK 1.5 JDK 1.5 to represent primitives in the form of objects. So Java is not 100% object oriented programming language, right? So not 100% programming language. Why? Because it supports primitives. So that's why this is also one of the reason. So, and moreover that the problem with primitives is we can't represent null values and we can't perform some methods on primitives, and generic collections not support primitives. These kind of problems we have with primitives. So to overcome these problems, so in 1.5 wrapper classes are introduced. So the name itself indicates that wrap. It will wrap primitive value with object. So that's why then we can achieve some object oriented programming language. So the conclusion is to represent primitives in the form of object oriented format, object. That's why wrapper classes are introduced. So for each primitive we have corresponding wrapper class. Like, let me start with list out them one by one. So for primitive byte, so byte is a primitive, corresponding wrapper class is capital B byte. Next one is short, S is small, byte short, wrapper class is capital S, short, SHORT. Next one is int, corresponding wrapper class is integer, INTEGR, I is capital, long, capital L, LONG, long, and float, capital F, float. Next double, capital D, double. Next one is char, corresponding wrapper class is character. And finally Boolean, corresponding wrapper class is capital B, Boolean. So these are the primitives, these are the wrapper classes. Must and should start with capital letter. So all these wrapper classes are final classes. That is the one point you need to remember. So why wrapper classes are introduced? To represent primitives in the form of objects. Wrapper classes are introduced. So the name wrap itself indicates that it can wrap primitive value with object. That's why wrapper classes are introduced to represent primitives in the form of object oriented format. So why wrapper classes are introduced? That's why I already explained. The problem with primitives also I explained. So the problem with primitives is we can't assign null values to primitives, and moreover that we can't perform some operations by using methods. And third one is generics. In collections we are using, when at the time of you are working with collections won't support primitives, right? Let us imagine list of, I can't say int, small int, int primitive value, this is invalid. So by default generics will support wrapper classes, generics won't support primitives. So these are the problems with primitives. And what is autoboxing and what is auto unboxing? So autoboxing is nothing but the process of converting primitive value to wrapper, wrapper object value. And the process of converting primitive, wrapper object to primitive is called auto unboxing. Let me try to write an example. So I have int number some value. Now this is primitive, right? Primitive type. So now I want to convert this primitive value to wrapper type. So how I can do that? Integer. So integer is the wrapper class, number object. So I am trying to pass num value, whatever I declared here, right? That value I am trying to pass. This is called auto boxing. So autoboxing is nothing but the process of converting primitive value to wrapper object value, that is called autoboxing. Unboxing is nothing but reverse. If you have integer value, I mean integer wrapper object, integer, so object, maybe number object only, whatever it may, we can declare your own on, I mean integer reference object, I mean reference variable num object new integer, integer of some value. So now I want to convert this wrapper object into primitive type, that is auto unboxing. So I want to convert int number, not object. So num object. So this is called auto unboxing. So this is called autoboxing. The process of converting primitive value to wrapper type is called autoboxing. The process of converting wrapper to primitive type is called auto unboxing. So I hope you got some clarity. What is wrapper class? I mean, what are the wrapper classes and corresponding? I mean, for each primitive we have corresponding wrapper class. Why wrapper classes are introduced? To represent Java primitive values in the form of objects. Wrapper classes are introduced. What is the problem with primitives? We can't represent null values with primitives, and we can't perform operations on primitives, and moreover that primitives does not support generics. So these are the problem with the primitive values, and moreover that because of this primitive values only, we can't say Java is not 100% programming language. And what is autoboxing and auto unboxing? Now let me try to write, I mean some examples in IDE, then you will get some clarity. Now let me try to explain about wrapper classes with some examples. So for that I already created one file called wrapper examples. Inside this file I am trying to explain. So why wrapper classes are introduced? Wrapper classes are introduced to wrap primitive values in the form of objects. So and moreover that the problem with primitives is we can't assign null value. That is the first problem. So let me try to make a comment here. So we can't assign null values. So this is the first problem with primitives. So I will show you. So if I have value int I equal to some 10, so this is perfectly valid. So if I can assign 0 also perfectly valid, but 0 also there may be a value, right? 0 means in database concept, if you have already aware of the DB concept, so 0 means there may be a record exist. So in that case 0 is here, 0 means some value exists. So I want to represent like value does not exist. So for that I can assign null value, but here I will get compilation error. So null means for primitives we can't assign null values. So this is the first problem. By using wrapper classes directly I can assign null value. So integer int obj, so I can assign 0, no problem, means there may be value exist with 0, or else if the value does not exist I can assign null also. This is also perfectly valid. This is the advantage of wrapper classes. So we can't assign null values with primitives. That is the disadvantage with primitives. So next second point is we don't have, I mean by using primitives we don't perform any methods. So like I can write comment like with primitives, so we can't perform any operations by using methods. So with primitives we can't perform any operations by using methods. So this is the second disadvantage with primitives. Like, so if I have value in the form of string, imagine string s, so integer value that exists in the form of string format. Now I want to convert this value into integer type. By using primitives we can't convert this. By using wrappers, I can convert it. Let me show you that. So one of the method inside that integer class, integer dot parse int, which is expecting string format, I mean string, and the parse int method is returns primitive of int type, if you can observe the documentation here. Now let me try to print that result. So into 1. Now let me try to run it. I got the value 13 in the form of primitive integer type. So this is the method. So if by using primitives, I can't convert the string value to int value. With the help of wrapper classes only, I can convert it. Not only parse int, number of methods are there like hash code. Anyway, it is coming from object class, equals, compare to, and moreover that range max min. Let me show you that. So integer dot max. So I don't need to mention, I mean direct, I don't need to mention that number, right? What is the maximum value of integer? So it can hold up to here, it is character representation. Let me try to print that, then you will understand. So what is the maximum value that integer can hold? So at the time of explaining data types, I already explained. So this is the value, maximum value. We don't need to directly assign this constant value. We can use by using max value, some by using constant. So this is the variable, right? Static variable. That's why we are trying to access by using class name. And moreover that parseInt also static method. That's why we are accessing by using class name. And moreover that we have one more important method like compare to. Why? Because integer class is implements. You can observe that integer class. So it implements comparable, right? So comparable contains which method? Compare to. So with this only customized sorting is possible. Now let me try to implement one example for that compare to method. I have integer I1 12 and integer I2. So if it is both same, we will get 0. If first value is less than second value, we will get minus. First value is greater than second value, we will get positive number. I mean 1 minus 1. Either it may be 1 or minus 1. If both are same, we will get 0. Now let me try to print. Before that, let me try to apply that compare to. I1 compare to of I2. Now I am trying to assign to a variable compare to. Now print that result. So minus 1. Why? Because first value is less than second value. That's why we are getting minus 1. If I can assign both same, I will get 0. If I can assign first one is bigger than second one, I will get positive number. I mean 1. So this is the, I mean internal working of compare to. Moreover that by using, I mean that method exists inside, I mean integer also. Anyway, I is the integer, right? Integer wrapper type, right? So I am trying to apply I1 compared to with I2. So this is parse int, max value is a variable, compare to. Number of methods are there, depending on our requirement we can apply. So here you can observe, right? These are the number of parse int, string size, get chars, value of, value of is a overloaded method, string and int. So when you are working with the real time projects, depending on our requirement, you can use any one of the method. So that is the, I mean second point about wrapper classes. And third point is, so primitives does not support generics. Primitives doesn't support generics. Generics. So primitives doesn't support generics. Let me show you that one as well. Before that, let me try to move this statement above. So I have int value, or else directly I can declare list of int new array list. So if we can observe here, we will get compilation error. So syntax error of token expected, instead of something it is saying, I mean not proper documentation. But let me try to import first. Everything list is not imported. So let me try to import list first. So if I can pass primitive value, I think. So here anyway documentation is not showing properly, but anyway, I mean collections, here we need to specify all generic types only, right? Primitives does not support. That is the third problem with primitives. So if I can pass integer here, so here I need to assign variable. Now let me try to assign int value here. We'll get any some meaningful reference. So dimension to the complete reference type. Yeah, now you are seeing some meaningful syntax error, right? So a reference type, but it is primitive type, so that is the meaningful compilation error. So if I can pass integer, that is perfectly valid. So that is the third problem with primitive. So first problem is we can't assign null values, second problem is we can't perform any methods by using primitives, and third problem is primitives does not support generics.